Hello, this is Prem, and this is going to be my CA2 for advanced manufacturing. So, before we start, what we're going to simulate today is going to be a basic or a simple car assembly line. And I'm using Arena version 16.1 for this simulation. All right. So before we start, let me open up the file that I have created before this. We have a couple of files over here. So I'm going to choose the one that I've created just now. So we can see the model that has been created with all the details in it. So basically, this model has been created to meet CA2's requirement in order to have a minimum of five inputs or entities, five processors, and three dispose modules. Okay, so I will bring you along the all the items that we have in this model, starting from inputs or entities. Open up parameter windows. So basically, in this model, we have five inputs, namely input or entity number one, input entity number two, input entity number three, input or entity number four, and input or entity number five. For each of the input, the time between arrival is set to be constant. And the time between arrival for input or entity number one and number two is set at 24 hours, while the time between arrival for input or entity number three, number four, and number five is set at 12 hours each. Each of the entities will be arriving at 1 unit per arrival. The maximum arrival for input or entity number one is set at 45. Input or entity number two is also set at 45, while input or entity number three, number four, and number five is each set at 30. The first creation starts at 0 hours for all five inputs. Each of the input is also assigned an attribute, as we can see over here. So basically, input or entity number one is chassis, axle, and tire assembly. Input or entity number two is called engine, gearbox, and radiator assembly. Input or entity number three is called seats and interior. Input or entity number four is called car electronics and electrical assembly. Input or entity number five is called door, windshield, and windows with lights. So now that we are done with the input or entity together with the attributes assigned, so now we move on to the processors that we have in this model. As I explained earlier, there will be five processors in this model, namely main assembly number one, main assembly two, sub assembly one electrical, sub assembly two electronics, and final assembly and paint shop. The logic action being used for all five processors will be cease, delay, release. The priority is set as high for all five processors. The delay type is set to be constant for all five processors as well, and it is set in hours for 2 hours each. Next comes our dispose module. No, sorry. Next comes our decision box. So we have three decision box in our model, namely QA main inspection number one, QA main inspection number two, and final QA inspection. So all this decision box is set based on two-way by chance, and it is set at 99% each. The last item that we have in our model is, of course, our dispose modules. So we have four dispose modules in this simulated model for car assembly line, and they are called QA Main Inspection 1 rejects, QA Main Inspection 2 rejects, Final QA Inspection rejects, and ship to warehouse. So for the first, second, and third dispose module, there's a command that we will return those parts for rework. And for the last dispose module, there's a command ready for shipment. So there you have it, our model for our arena simulation model for a basic, simple car assembly line. And I've also set up the operational clock and the time now to show the time and date when the operation is running. Basically, we set this model to run for 60 days. Before we start, we check whether the model is having any errors. And Arena returns a pop-up box saying that there's no error or warnings in this model. And before we proceed, we shall check again all the parameters and all the details one more time. Okay, so we have all the details and all the parameters in our model verified, and it is good to go. So we shall start to run the model after checking the model one more time. I'm going to enable highlight active module so that we can see which module is running when we run the simulation. I'm going to adjust the animation speed. So the whole simulation is going to run for about 4 to 5 minutes, and we shall start now. So we have our model completing 60 days run, and because of some error in installing Crystal Report, we will not be able to view the Crystal Report. So I will switch to I will stop the simulation. I will end the current model from running, and we have the output file generated by the model, and we will open that using WordPad or Notepad. And here we have the output report from the model that we have run just now. Thank you.